Hello, Sovereign Lovers. Danny Panzella-Velez here. I wanted to drop on and just talk to you a little bit about the sacred plant medicine, Ayahuasca. Back in, I want to say 2017 or so, my wife and I were in a really dark place. We were both severely traumatized from previous relationships and from childhood traumas that we didn't even realize we were carrying. And we were having a really difficult time connecting. We were experiencing a lot of fighting and disconnection. We were both addicted. Just narcissism and codependency was a big challenge for our relationship. We were in a really hard place, but we were also deeply in love and wanted to heal and wanted to get better. And we also wanted to have a baby. And I had read some articles about ayahuasca resetting the endocrine system and helping women get pregnant right after doing ceremonies. So I was like, oh, babe, here, we should try this. We should go to Peru and do ayahuasca, and then maybe you'll be able to get pregnant. And Vanessa was like, no. She looked at some of the documentaries I showed her, and she was like, oh, hell no. So, I don't know, a little while later, a few months, maybe a year, we both ran into an old friend of mine who I hadn't seen in many years, who she was so different that I actually didn't even recognize her. We got onto the elevator, and she was already on, and I just didn't even recognize her. I turned my back to her. Her whole energy had changed from the last time I had seen her. So it wasn't until she spoke to us that I realized who it was, and we hugged and we chatted for a few minutes, and she shared with us that she had just finished publishing her book, and she gave us a copy. Her book was her journal from her first ayahuasca experience. And Vanessa read the book. We were taking the train from Philly to New York. Vanessa read the book on the train, and by the end of that train ride said, let's do it. I want to go to Peru. I want to experience the emotional healing that Carla experienced in Peru. See, me and my masculine brain was like, let me show her science and facts. And what Vanessa actually responded to was emotion. And so we started to talk to Carla. Now, Carla was facilitating retreats at this time. She gathers groups of people, handpicks, and does some mentoring beforehand, and then brings us down to Peru to experience the medicine sitting with shamans. I like to say that Carla is a drill sergeant crossed with a kindergarten teacher. She is filled with love, compassion, and empathy. And also, she's very strict. She's going to make sure that you get the most healing out of your experience. She holds you accountable. She calls you out when necessary, but in a very sweet way, like a kindergarten teacher would. Carla takes your healing as seriously as she does her own. And that is really I really think that impeccability, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to her for her impeccability because it helped me to receive healing. But I'm also grateful for the model of impeccability that now Vanessa and I are committed to being to that level of impeccability. So not only so that we can help other people, but it's just integrity, and it just feels good to be in that model. And I know that I can trust Carla with anything. I know that I'm safe with Carla, and I think to experience something new that you've never done, especially something so, I don't even know how to describe it, wild as going to Peru to take a psychedelic, I think it requires a feeling of safety for most people. I mean, sure, there's some people that would be like, yeah, well, the type of people that would just jump out of a plane, right? But I think for a lot of people, they require the safety, the feeling of trusting those who they're sitting with. And so Carla, because of her impeccability, because she's so committed to the healing of others and is always willing to put herself and her ego second within healthy boundary ranges, she really is an amazing guide. We spent the next 2 years preparing for Peru. Timing, money, finances, things just didn't really work out right away. And it took 2 years before we finally went. But when we got to Peru, the first day, we hadn't even taken ayahuasca yet. The first day, Vanessa and I looked at each other and said, if we go home tomorrow, this trip has already been worth it. We have already experienced so much healing. Carla, in her impeccability, she just curates such an amazing experience. She picks the most beautiful places to stay while we're there. Oh God, it's like I can still feel the feeling of the peace of being in the Sacred Valley and the mountains and the trees all around us. And just what a beautiful and relaxing, peaceful experience that was, that set up the environment to feel safe in, right? When you're at peace because of the nature around you, because of the beautiful surroundings, you feel safe to enter into that healing, into something that might otherwise be pretty frightening. The food, she curated a dieta under the tutelage of the shamans, where for 2 months prior, we were to refrain from alcohol, sweets, sugars. We were eating vegan. The dieta is designed to limit the amount of stimulation in your body so you can feel what's going on. So that the things that need to be healed, you can start to be more mindful of them because you're not distracted by a lot of sensation. So the idea of the dieta is to really kind of try to get quiet and to develop your intention. Figure out what your intention for the ayahuasca healing will be. For me, my intention was to heal my relationship with my mother, who I passed on. We had a difficult relationship while she was here, and she passed away very young. She was 55, and she died in my arms. And so that was really traumatic for me. And it took me many, many years. It took me 10 years to even begin to grieve my mother, which really started at my ayahuasca ceremony. I was so traumatized by what I experienced with her that I didn't even want to face the feeling. So I buried it all. And I refused to even think about my mother for 10 years after she died. Once a year on her birthday, I would cry thinking about her. And then that was all I would allow myself. Then the rest of the year, I suppressed it. So that became my intention for the ceremony. The ceremony itself was not quite as psychedelic as I thought it was going to be for me. Some people experience a lot of psychedelics, visuals, etc. For me, it was very much a going inward and almost having a conversation. It was me having a conversation with my inner child. And we worked through a lot of things, a lot of resistance. First and foremost, my resistance to wanting to face the hard traumas that I had. Right? A lot of times we want to avoid feelings that don't feel good, that are hard. And so we cover them up, or I was covering them up with addictions to food. For me, I was addicted to sex as well. The pleasure was distracting me from the pain. So I was able to sit with those feelings and look at the trauma so that I could really process it. The whole retreat, we experienced 2 ayahuasca ceremonies and a washuma ceremony. Washuma is a cactus. It's kind of a cousin to mescaline and peyote. It's a very mild experience, but beautiful, peaceful. It promotes like a connection with nature. We went hiking in the Andes Mountains while on Washuma, and my God, just the mountains, and then it started to hail. And I'm the kind of guy that I'm not really like into outdoorsy kind of stuff, or I haven't been in the past. I certainly have a much deeper appreciation for nature now. But you know, I'm the kind of guy that washes his hands constantly because I don't like having dirty hands. But it started to hail while we were hiking through the mountains, and Vanessa and I took off our shoes and we hiked barefoot through the mountains during this hailstorm. And it was still to this day, one of the most beautiful things I have ever experienced in my life. Trying to think what other major points I want to cover. I think overall, the integration process is really probably the most important part. It might even be more important than actually taking the ayahuasca. And Carla, again, her impeccability when it comes to integration work is just unparalleled. She has worked with us through integration after the fact, and I would not be the person I am today without Carla's help and guidance. And so I also want to let you know that Carla is doing a retreat in October. She's facilitating a new group to go down to Peru, October 1st through 11th, 2022. And if you're interested in learning more, you can have a free consultation with her. She'll do a free Zoom call and she can discuss the retreat and help you determine whether or not this type of experience is right for you in this moment. So if you want to go over to timetohealus.com, I'll put the link in the description of the video. You can check that out and see if ayahuasca is right for you. Ask your shaman if ayahuasca is right for you. Ask Carla. She will help you to figure out what your emotional needs are and whether or not you're ready, or if you're feeling called to the medicine, then you're ready. And she can help facilitate that for you. All right, peace and love, everybody.